So hey, it was nice meeting you, Joel and David. I'm glad you guys could come and do this, and hopefully we can learn a little bit about what you guys do, and you guys can hopefully help you if you guys need some help. But I'm Eric. I'm the CEO of ChainBytes, and I'll let Keith and Mike introduce themselves, and then flip to you guys.
All right. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Mike Salvi. I'm with ChainBytes. Yeah, thanks for joining us. This is I'm looking forward to hearing about this. So, 'cause, one for me, but I know it's gonna be helpful for a lot of other people watching. So,
My name's Keith. I'm the director of sales here at ChainBytes. I operate machines too, so I'm out in the field doing the same thing you guys are.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, I just joined a little bit later, but I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm David. Joel and I obviously own we own CoinArc, which is the name of our operation and company. So
I'd like to, in your introduction, I'd like to hear a little bit about what you did before, and what drove you over to making this decision to do what you're doing now. Yeah, take it away. Tell me a little bit about you.
gotcha. All right, I guess I'll start, Joel. My name's David. I'm 26, and I guess a little bit earlier, I got into Bitcoin probably around 2017. So that was my introduction to Bitcoin itself. I was still in college, and I actually don't know how I stumbled upon Bitcoin itself, but I ended up reading about it and kind of, as I'd say probably most of us, ended up jumping down that rabbit hole and kind of never got back out. So honestly, kept buying and still buying to this day personally. And I knew I wanted to jump into the business side of things, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And when was this? This was 2022 is when we started. January 2022 is when we officially started CoinArc, the business. So a little bit before that, I ended up doing research and finding ChainBytes itself. And I think what ended up making me go into the Bitcoin ATM side of things was I knew that I wanted to do like a traditional business. I'm personally not technical, but I have a little bit of business experience, maybe not experience because this is my first business, but um, I flipped houses before. So that was kind of my side job. And I come back from a medical side of things. So when I was going to college, I went for respiratory therapy, which I still am doing to this day. We currently operate 4 ATMs, obviously, as you guys know. So we're still a pretty small operation, and we're still trying to figure out, how to do things, what's the best way to do things. And I'm hoping from this, I was glad that you guys actually reached out to talk to us, because I think there's a few things that we want to touch on and learn and go from, and maybe how we can do things better, maybe change a few things. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that I kind of explained my side of things a little bit.
No, interesting. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Joel, how's it going?
good. Good to meet you guys.
You have great
Yeah,
lighting, by the way.
thanks. Yeah, it's sunny where I'm at right now. So,
Very good. So, yeah, just if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, maybe what you did before and what got you into the Bitcoin ATM world.
yeah, absolutely. So, I guess my background is like software. I went to school for web development, and just David and I have remained friends. We went to like middle school together and just kind of became friends since then. So both were kind of interested in doing something other than the regular job, and trying to figure out other things that we could do. And David is the one that actually stumbled upon like the idea of a Bitcoin ATM, and from there we went into it. as far as our breakdown of work, I mainly handle the website marketing side of things, as well. And David is kind of going into, different locations and has been, asking if we can placement of ATMs there. And also he's been handling the customer service as well. And yeah, I think, so far the breakdown of work has kind of gone that way. Right now we're kind of focused on, actually growing the business that we have so far. We definitely have had our ups and downs, and so kind of want to see and appreciate you guys setting this up so we can kind of see from people that have stuff that works and what hasn't worked for you and that sort of thing. So
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I love I love the fact that you guys have known each other since grade school. I think that's kind of neat. And the fact that I guess the build and trust level is there too. For us, what we usually tell people when they're getting into, they ask us the questions about what it is to become a Bitcoin ATM operator, what are the steps to start, and we have listed right on our website. So if you do see me glancing, I just don't want to miss a word. But buying Bitcoin ATM machines from ChainBytes, that's always step one. AML, KYC requirements, securing a steady supply of Bitcoin, deploying a machine to a location, and servicing cash. With those being the main 5 steps, you guys being 2 years into, just about now, are these the right? Like, how have these kind of
I got a question.
taken in? Sure. Go ahead.
So, how long did it take you until you felt like you were going with the flow? You got the flow of things.
Right. That's kind of what I was leaning towards. Thanks, Keith.
Yeah. Okay. So we started.
We're still working on that.
Gotcha. So we started in January of 2022 is when our, LLC was created. And then I think to get everything up and running, when we were working with, we worked with BTM Compliance, which I know is a partner for you guys. I think by the time we got our first ATM up and running, it was April. And then by the time we got, it was a month. It took so I want to preference this with, we were kind of struggling initially to find a location just personally. This is the first time I was in sales position, meaning I had to go to each location and actually, for the first time in my life, speak to the owner or go and talk to this person. So it was still a learning curve for me. So I'd say we actually put it in a friend's restaurant. And that was our first location. The first order came probably, I would have to look, but about a month, maybe a little bit after that. So once we started getting a few orders, I still kind of had to figure out how it was working. Obviously, these people were calling, so I had to figure out kind of the customer support side of things as well. I would say personally, probably by the time I felt comfortable with it, and we did have to move, obviously, that restaurant because it didn't do very well. So we moved. Where did we move to? We found it's called a Superette. So it's kind of like a convenience store here locally. And maybe about a month into that location was when it actually started to pick up a little bit. And then from there, I started to get a little bit more comfortable with how everything operates, how you have to manage, the cash, the bank side of things, and the compliance side of things as well. So I'd say from starting in January, setting up in April, maybe, July, August, from there, I started feeling comfortable just on operating side of things and how the ATM works. Obviously I had questions, so I'd reach out to you guys and I'd be answering, obviously you guys be answering questions, or at least the customer side of support of ChainBytes.
So you said you struggle a little bit with finding locations and sort of going in with the pitch. Do you feel comfortable with that now?
I'm still working on a few things, but definitely more comfortable now. Obviously, 2 years into it, the one thing I'd say, so we're based in Erie, and the one thing I noticed is there's not a lot of personal, or not personal, gas stations that are owned by like a single person. It's for a single owner, so it's very corporatized. Meaning the one big player is called Country Fair here. They own actually two large companies, or I guess it's Red Apple gas stations, and then Country Fair. There's like I don't know. I mean, they own like 70 locations throughout the Erie and greater area. So trying to get a hold of these people has been a struggle personally for me, because it's, I mean, there's like a corporate layer to everything. So yeah, that's still working on that. But in terms of getting in the smaller locations, I mean, so we got a few superettes. We have two superettes and two laundromats as our locations right now. And that's been easy because they're owned by single people, or not single people. I mean, like, one owner. So I was able to actually talk. Yeah, was able to actually directly talk to them. So that's what I found success, in at least these 4 locations. But in terms of trying to get anything bigger, multiple locations, or these corporate side of, players, it's been a little bit challenging. I mean, it's still challenging because it's something we're working on. And
yeah, I mean,
I just wanted to ask you, I mean, later, if I can, would be your advice on these larger, I don't know if you've dealt with anything like this, but something advice, or maybe, operators that have dealt with like 7-Elevens, or something like a Country Fair,
you can talk to that.
Okay.
We've definitely been around that block. We've talked to Rudders. We've talked to Keith can talk to this. It's difficult. As he can sort of talk more about that.
Yeah, and I've actually found that some of these big locations, they don't produce as good as the smaller locations. Like we have a laundromat that outproduced like the most prime of the prime gas station, corporatized Dunkin' Donuts inside and everything, and I was just like, it's amazing. Like it's like sometimes there's no rhyme to the reason, but it really is how do you get in contact with them? I mean, like we're just talking about Rudders. Hey, how do you get in contact with them? Well, you got to go up the chain. You got to find somebody lower on the chain, because the upper guys are just not gonna. They're never. You can't get a hold of them except for somebody that they work with. You got to work your way up. That's the only way I can think of it.
Okay.
And to what Keith was just saying, these smaller operators, if you can engage the store owners, and they can be very helpful to promote your machine, to where they see somebody standing in front of the machine. This happens very often. Somebody stands in front of the machine, they're afraid to use it, they feel a little bit intimidated. And a lot of times these guys can step in and help them. It's in their interest, obviously, to keep the machine there, keep the rent coming in. And so, spend some time, I would say, talking to the owners themselves and educating them. I don't know if you have flyers at the location. We put up, like on here, you have a little brochure on the machine, especially at a laundromat. You got a captive audience. They can take the brochure as they're doing their laundry. They can read it, and then a lot of times, especially in a laundromat, you see kids coming up and using the machines for the parents, because they don't know how to use it, and the kids sort of, they don't care. They don't look. They just do it.
Yeah,
but again,
and to that effect, the having a location where you got the owners and the employees involved, it really does help. I was just at one of our locations yesterday, and the employee, she's always helping. Yeah, and that's why that location does great. And another location I was at the same day, the owner, he's always helping. So, I had proposed, as a way to get more people to use the Bitcoin ATM, here, why don't you give your customers some free Bitcoin as thanks, because then they can give it to their customers. It makes them look good. Hey, I'm giving you some free Bitcoin. You just got to use it on this machine. And then they'll help them use it. And it creates a relationship, The smaller guys are much more personable. I was just, you guys ever hear of Wawa?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was just at Wawa earlier. I got a hot dog. There was no ketchup there, and my Wawa coffee cup fell apart. it just disintegrated on me, and I didn't have time to deal with it. And I was like, this is why I don't like going to these corporate places, because I'm gonna go back in there, and it's just gonna give me a headache. I was like, this just doesn't happen with the small guys. So, and if it did, they take care of me, and it's more personal. So they're kind of like your salespeople, because you can't be there to sell somebody on a Bitcoin, on Bitcoin and using the Bitcoin ATM. If they got a question or something, you can't be there to help them. If you got somebody there to help them, it's a win.
And if it's not the store owner, what you want to do is actually give, if it's an employee there, give them some Bitcoin, show them how to redeem it, take them to the machine and walk them through the process. We have a location at the Army Navy in Allentown. And just by doing that with the people behind the counter, before they were just kind of like, oh, call the number on there. I don't really understand it. And that's not a good response. Whereas now we gave them some Bitcoin, show them how to use the machine. They're like, oh yeah, let me show you. It's really easy. All you got to do is, and they literally, like we see them on the camera all the time, helping customers walk through the whole process. And once they've gone through it once, I mean, some of them ask for help every time, but most people, okay, now I'm comfortable with that. And they're not going to go elsewhere because they don't want to have to relearn the process somewhere else. So you're going to really leverage your time if you can get the employees and the owners on board with that stuff. So that's easy marketing, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I have a question. I was on the phone with a customer earlier. We were just talking about challenges and, trying to predict all the things that could happen in the future, right? I said, this isn't like jumping off a diving board. It's not just water down there. There's a lot of things that are factored into this. So I'm always curious to ask an operator this that's been up and running for a little while. What are some challenges that you thought were going to be big that weren't, and kind of vice versa? Like something you thought may have been a big deal that was like, oh, this is nothing.
I guess, David, I can speak a little bit to this, and if you want to add anything as well. Probably honestly the biggest challenges have been like just getting constantly shut down for marketing, like running ads and stuff like that, especially paid ads. We've tried like Google, Meta, like Facebook, and different platforms. I've tried like Pinterest as well because they're like the only one that kind of allows you, and didn't really have any success there, which didn't really expect to, but I figured it's worth a shot, Lately, Microsoft allows you to run ads after you have a domain in existence for over 18 months. So that's what we're kind of shooting for there. We just got shut down like yesterday for like no reason. We filled out like the crypto application form, and then there was like an automated system thing that was just like, no, screw you, you're not advertising. So
Was that Facebook or Google or
this was Microsoft.
oh, this is
Facebook and
Microsoft that did this to you. Oh, so okay.
they just
Yeah, I mean,
won't have us on Facebook or Google. My Facebook account got like deleted pretty much from them. They were so pissed.
really? Well, we haven't had
Yeah,
that. We're just not allowed to pay for advertising, but that's on and off. Facebook especially, they let you, they don't let you, and even when they say they don't let you, sometimes we get them in. But I don't think the paid advertising is honestly, you don't get that great of an ROI. I think your organic SEO and going out there, you have a Google profile. I assume each location you have a profile set up, and getting reviews and getting people to sort of interact with that is going to give a lot more ROI than paying for it. And Google, I don't think Google will ever let you advertise again. I mean, they're very difficult as well.
Yeah. So
yeah.
do you guys have like a business profile set up for your locations?
Yeah, that's something I've been focused on pretty extensively. We're trying to build that up because there are other Bitcoin ATMs in Erie, obviously, but none of them focus on their Google profiles. So it's like the one thing that we can control, that Google won't shut us down on. Well, they have once actually, but ever since we haven't been shut
Us
down.
too. We've had it too. It was everyone though. I think they just everything crypto. They killed it and they made you re-register, and that took us 2 months, I think, to get back on with them. And it's just because they didn't have a
Yeah.
working process. Their app none of it worked. And yeah, you already know. I mean, we called
Or
everybody, and We even had a Google rep, and they couldn't help us. They didn't know how to do it, and I'm like, like this is, and so, but they've smoothed that out at this point. I think it's not easy, but easier. So
Yeah. Yeah, for our newest location, it took about probably a month and a half, 2 months to get online for Google. And I don't think we had any sales during that period. So it's definitely important. We're trying to like incentivize reviews for Google. Like whenever we get a new customer in, like say, hey, review us, we'll give you $10 on your next order. Just and have seen limited success with that. I don't know if it's like the hook is not good enough and it needs to be like $50 or something, but um,
we noticed the same thing. Like we've advertised and given away Bitcoin, and sometimes it brings them the machine, and they don't even redeem the free Bitcoin. Like, okay, that's odd.
same,
Uh,
yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Like they'll keep coming, but they're like, no,
yeah,
I'm not
but
gonna
they never
review.
redeem the free Bitcoin. And okay,
Yeah.
I have no answer to that, honestly. That seems to be a very odd behavior, but we've seen
Yeah.
it not just in our machines, but other places as well. So they just, I don't know. We don't know how to really align that incentive to get them interested. Aside from, okay, they see it, they think they might want to redeem it, but it just brings them to the machine, and I don't know if they forgot the code with them or they just don't care about the money. I really, it's hard to tell. So.
So
Yeah,
we
maybe
found
it's even a usability issue. Like they're like, I don't really want to figure out how to do this. I don't know. That could be it too. Like,
Maybe.
especially because a lot of our customers, at least on our end, a lot of them are older. And I imagine once they have one way of figuring out the machine, they're like, all right, this is all I'm ever gonna do, and I'm never gonna do anything else. So
I
maybe
think it is
that's it.
partially that as well. You're right. I think they just couldn't be bothered with figuring out how to actually do it, even though it's like just one and it spells it out, but they just want to get through it and not look embarrassed and get done with it. So yeah, we've noticed
Yeah.
that as well.
So, so I guess another thing I wanted to add was we're trying to work on like referrals, like I said. Any way we can get like organic, referrals and stuff like that. That's, in my opinion, the way that the best way to grow our business is through referrals because it's the best form of marketing. So, been trying
Okay.
to do that. If you guys have any way that's worked for you,
No, we
let
haven't
us
really
know.
had much
But
luck on referrals, to be honest with you. We
okay.
haven't. I think we tried it a few years ago and we just didn't have luck, and we haven't revisited it. I don't
We've
know if there's
had
a secret
like
formula to
I
it.
know there's been one that like that we've had that just like we didn't incentivize them at all. They just did it, which is nice. But yeah, so there's that. We're trying like SEO, like creating articles on our I created a blog portion of the website, creating like YouTube shorts and stuff like that. And I guess to answer your question earlier, Mike, things that went easier than we expected. I'll be honest, I don't really know an answer to that question. A lot of it has been a little bit harder than we've expected. Like, for example, even finding a bank, that was, David will tell you, we went to every single bank in Erie and they're like, no, screw you, we're not working with you. Then we had one, they're like, oh, never mind, we're not working with you anymore. So, we ended up finding a local, David ended up finding a local one about like 45 minutes out or something that we have to go to. But I mean, it's better than a cash truck that we would have to hire. So um, yeah, there's been a lot of hurdles along the way. It's been rewarding though. I would say, there's the ups and downs. But David, I don't know if you had anything to add, best or things that went really well or things that have been more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just add to Joel's point that I think, I mean, this being our first business, officially, um, it's definitely been a learning curve to a lot of these things. And like Joel said, I mean, everything has kind of been its challenge, but I mean, we got through it and we're still figuring things out. And I think that's the main thing, whatever comes in your way, as long as you can kind of figure a way around it, you'll be fine. So But yeah, that the banking part, at least initially, was almost what caused us not to get through it. So, but yeah, we found a bank, and they're great. They're working with us, so we have no issues with them.
Yeah, that's great. We hear that from operators often, and they just go to one bank and they say no, and they're done. And I'm like, whoa, no, 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 no. That's you got to
Yeah.
go. And even once you get a bank account, you better go get another bank account because that bank, one of the compliance officers might have a bad day and decide, I don't like that business anymore. Or they get a
Yeah.
letter from the FDIC saying, hey, give us all your crypto companies. They're like, yeah, I don't think we should be doing this. It sounds, and then, now you're out on your, starting all over again. So it's always good to
Gotcha.
have a few options and not be relying on one bank because what if they turn you off tomorrow? They give you this 30-day notice and say, yeah, we're not dealing with this anymore. You don't want to be beholden to them because they can have a big impact on your business. And all it takes is one bad story in the news, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't want to be involved anymore. Too much reputational risk, and it's too small amount of money." And then the way the money works there, you're depositing it and immediately wiring it off. That triggers things internally as well. So now you got eyeballs on the account. So building a relationship, that's number one. But second to that is have a backup as well. Just don't rest. That'll definitely be I can't tell you how many bank accounts I've had over the last decade dealing
Gotcha.
in this. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Mike, you want to ask another, or I got some questions, but go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm pulling up a few more, but go ahead.
Maybe talk about so when you talk to people and explain to them, maybe talk about what your process is at the machines and how you would explain that to a customer. I guess David, maybe more for you since you deal with the customer service, explaining to someone how do you show people how to use a machine? How do you explain it to them in the simplest as a 5-year-old, I guess. That's basically.
Yeah. So you want me just to kind of go through the process of actually using an ATM, or?
Well, assume I'm a
Or
new
just
customer. I'm like,
okay,
I want
gotcha.
to use the machine, but I don't know what to do. Explain to me what I'm going to have to do at this machine.
Right. I mean, first I would ask him if they've ever used one before. Say the customer says, "No, I've never used one, but I'm interested in buying some Bitcoin." I'd say, "Okay, do you have a Bitcoin wallet?" And they'd probably be like, "Well, what's a Bitcoin wallet?" So then, I know in the beginning when we started, we didn't know which Bitcoin wallet to recommend. And I know you guys use or have said, I mean, it wasn't like financial advice, but you guys said Blue Wallet. So that's what we ended up I ended up personally downloading Blue Wallet and testing it out just to see how it works. And honestly, it's not a bad wallet. So we just ended up creating a little brochure, like you were pointing in the beginning, like putting on the ATM. We noticed that initially all the first calls that I was getting, like all the time, was, "Hey, how do I use this machine?" So I'd have just to make it simple, I created a brochure, and I don't have one on me, but I'll have to see if I can find one. But long story short, it's just explaining that you can download it on Apple Store or Google, and what it looks like, just so they can see the logo. Once they download that, a lot of times they would have to, I mean, from my personal recollection, just initially when we were first starting, a lot of these newer customers, I had to even go through with them how to set up the actual Blue Wallet, and personal keys, like save this in like 3 different places, and don't lose it whatever you do. So once that was kind of done, then I explained how it works, QR codes, that sort of thing, receiving, sending Bitcoin. And then from there, I'd tell them to either, if this was maybe another day because they went home or something. So if they would call back and say, "Okay, I'm here," they would be like, "Okay, how do I use this Blue Wallet and this ATM?" So it'd be, click on the screen. You would say they're buying Bitcoin. You just hit buy Bitcoin. You would do, I can't remember the process, if it's buy Bitcoin first or put in the cash. But long story short, if you either put in the cash, how much you want to do, then you would scan the wallet, and I would tell them you have to hit receive, because obviously you're trying to receive that Bitcoin into your personal wallet. And then from there, whatever you would have to do, either scan, depending on the dollar amount, you have to scan, ID, do whatever you need to do. And then it would confirm the transaction if everything was okay. So that's a simple. I mean, there's a few more steps like in the beginning, getting the code sent to your phone, that sort of thing. But yeah, I would just try and hold their hand through the process, and it seemed to work. I mean, I know specifically one of our first customers. I won't say her name, but she has been. I mean, she's buying to this day, and I had to literally tell her how to do everything. And I mean, obviously now she's comfortable with everything. She just comes in, buys a little bit, and does her thing. So, and that's
Yeah,
what I've
but
noticed.
you'll find that that's how you capture your customers, right? She's never going to go anywhere else. She knows if she runs into
Yeah.
trouble, she can call you and get that support. And
And
that's where we
actually,
found people really thrive in this business is support.
Speaking of that not going anywhere, it's funny because one of our locations is next to, not really next to, maybe I'd say about a minute drive away from a coin flip ATM. And she one time went to the coin flip ATM and called me on like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. This is like different. And I'm like, I didn't see your order on here. Is like, cause everything. Cause she's like, oh, I'm at this store. I'm like, oh, that's our competitor. She's like, oh, well, I apologize. I'm like, that's okay. And literally the next week she came back to us to use it. So yeah.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've had coin flips across the street, same thing. And as soon as we put them in across the street from a coin flip, taking all the customers from them because they don't really provide that kind of service. And certainly once they get that level of service and walking through the process, they're never going to go back to that nonsense again. So yeah, good.
And I did notice that with a few other customers, and that's why I kind of personally tried to make sure that I take every phone call and don't miss a call and talk to these people, is because most other like CoinFlip, all these other companies, I don't think they have like any live customer service. So at least for
Yeah.
me, I noticed that obviously like these customers want someone to talk to.
Yeah, I mean they're paying extra and they want that comfort to know that if I run into trouble, I don't know what I'm doing, I got somebody to call. They call that person there, and once they've gone through that process and you provide a good service, they're not going to another machine. And it doesn't even seem to be the fees, although coin flip machines are higher sometimes in some ways. It's not about that. It's about like, I don't want to look stupid in front of people. I want to get through this, and if you can provide that level of service, yeah,
Well,
you're
and I also think part of it is, like you said, the older generation, people that are not too tech savvy. They're going up to a machine to buy Bitcoin. It's technology. It's all technology. There's no human involved there. But they see the value of dollars going into the machine, and then they understand that they're getting value back. To have a human back behind that just makes it so much easier for them. Now they know there's a human behind this business. It's not just all technology, and I think that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. At least from what I've seen. So
Has most of your customer base been like 40 plus age range as well?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah,
It depends on the
that
location, but in general, for sure. And again, we operate machines, but we also have operators, and it's pretty much universal that it's older people who are not comfortable with sending emails and things to one of the exchanges, and that they can do everything at them and get their Bitcoin right away. They're more comfortable with that. Some of them can't figure out how to upload their picture and things like that, whereas at the machine they can just hold it up, and even if it's blurry, because I'm sure you've had it where it's blurry and you got to call them up and get their ID, and that's a struggle. How do I send this? How do I do this? And that's sort of why they showed up in the first place, is because they weren't able to do that. And there's certainly in the well, finance isn't not anymore, but the larger exchanges, they don't have that level of support, nor will they probably. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
you're on mute, Mike.
I knew. Yeah, I feel like these will be kind of quick, but I think people want to know this. As far as setting up the machines itself, like the process, like once it's finally delivered, like how easy is it to get started? Like, is it hard to install the machines themselves? Even with the location too, like getting them involved.
No, I mean, our latest location, I mean, I got in contact with the owner. He ended up, he has 2 laundromats. The second one did not have an ATM in it. So kind of the deal I made with him was if our ATM does well, his first location has a Bitcoin Depot ATM in it. So the deal was with him, if ours does good and everything goes well, can we take over that location? So in a year is the kind of plan, so to speak, or agreement. And I mean, at least my personal, talking with him was, it was very easy. I mean, I'll just explain for us. It was over text, super easy. He said, "Yeah, I mean, when we built this location, we actually had a specific place for a Bitcoin ATM. So literally, we came in, set up the ATM, there was an Ethernet cable into the wall, just plugged it in. There was a power cable into the wall, plugged that in, drilled a few holes to secure the ATM, and it was up and running that day.
There was so I would say that's probably the only challenges sometimes. I bet especially if we get into like a grocery store that's large square footage or something like that, would be the internet hookup situation. There was one challenge like Gary's Superette we had, I think Gary's Superette we had to like run through the ceiling kind of, and it was like
Yeah, we've
um
been there.
which it wasn't terrible or anything. It was just like, there wasn't really, it wasn't a modern built property where there was Ethernet in the wall and stuff. And then we had one where Lakeview Laundromat where it was like all of her ports on her router were already used up. And so I knew enough. I mean, I'm like a software guy, not hardware, but I knew enough. I'm like, well, we don't need our own router. We can just get a switch. So I brought in a switch, and I think we had to do the same thing with Gary's Superette as well, and temporarily unplugged their security system. But it's all right. They didn't get robbed during that time. So
Well, that's you just tagged on to something is like a lot of times, most of the time, I think at this point we use cellular modems. We don't rely on their internet. When you are relying on the internet, you want to make sure that their cash registers and important systems are also tied to it because, especially we have a laundromat. When the internet goes down, they don't care as much unless their stuff is tied to it. And so you want to make sure of that. Otherwise, put in your own and don't rely on them. And there's definitely cellular providers we can
everywhere we have their point of sale is on their
and you're
router.
good. Yeah.
But
Then they're going to get it fixed. They're going to know about it before you do, and they're going to get it fixed. Then you usually don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
yeah, I guess what did you mean by like you use a mobile service? Do you pay for each location like $50 a month or something?
It's like a little wire. It's called the wireless box. It's a little wireless box. It's cellular, and where you would normally plug in, where your landline would not normally plug in, it plugs right into that. And then it's like what, $15 a month per location, I think it is. And it's
Pretty
always
cheap.
online for you. Okay. So even if their internet goes down locally, like you might like we have Comcast around here and they're up and down. Sometimes it's out for a couple days. But if you got cellular internet, it's not down at all. It keeps on going so you can stay in business.
And there's
And
redundancies there too. So it has Verizon and AT&T so that if one goes down, it'll roll back to the other. So
yeah,
we know
that's really
we
good
only had one
pricing.
issue in many years, and that was like a system-wide problem that wasn't isolated to us. That was literally the whole Northeast here had problems, and so
And they've got
something.
and they've got the remote. They've got these things called relays that plug into them, so you can do a remote reboot too. So if you have to go out to reboot the machine, now you don't have to go out and reboot it. You can reboot it from home or
Well,
wherever you are.
that's something else I want to mention. If you're in grocery stores, make sure if you're on the electrical line with refrigerators or freezers, when they go off and on, that creates a huge brownout. Put a UPS system between your machine and the wall. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself with the power supply getting burned out relatively quick. That and some stores turn off all the power at night. Then you got the machine going up and down every day. Do that for 6, 9 months. The machine's, eventually you're going to have read-write errors on the hard drive. But But more importantly, if they have a refrigerator or a freezer on there, do not plug right in on that same line. Make sure you put a UPS between there. Otherwise, you'll have weird issues like that.
What do you, this is probably a dumb question, but what do you mean a UPS? Like, what is that?
Uninterruptible power supply. You can get them at Staples and stuff. It's just basically a battery backup. And what that does is when the refrigerator comes on, the power drops. So it kicks in for that moment and provides, the proper power. Whereas if it keeps doing, yeah, there you go.
There you go. Get one of these. I got one for the backup. Yeah, and it's interesting too because you don't find this stuff out until the refrigerators go out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
know that this stuff happens, to get these types of gems beforehand is good. So I got a question. This is so 2 years into running a business, whether it was Bitcoin ATMs or basket weavings, you guys are 2 years into running a business together. Now you're running a Bitcoin ATM business. With all the different companies that were out there, you chose ChainBytes. You have the CEO here, so feel free to be honest. As far as the support and those types of things go, genuinely, like, how has ChainBytes support been for you? Is there anything else that you feel like we could do a little bit differently?
Yeah, I'll take that question. Obviously, except
you took it a little too
yeah.
fast. Just kidding. Go ahead.
No, genuinely, I mean, I'd say for the most part, I mean, we've gotten anytime I've had to answer a question, and I emailed you guys or I reached out or called. I mean, there was someone, at least from business hours, that was able to take my call or email me back. John, I think is his name. He's the one I've been kind of talking to a lot, and he's been a really big help, especially with a lot of questions and even marketing questions, just in general helping us out. So I would say, I mean, personally, I'm happy. I haven't had any issues with you guys. You guys have gotten.
I think too, David, we kind of went with ChainBytes because, like a lot of the other companies were like, I mean, you can speak more to that, but we're kind of like, this one would probably be easier for customer service and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the you guys being in Pennsylvania, kind of local, that kind of was a decision. And then another thing was specifically we were looking for an ATM that we thought, at least from videos, as much as we could, it would be a good user experience, which I could say it is. So, in my opinion,
I would say the only, I mean, and David, if you want to add anything to you, the only constructive feedback I would have was like in catastrophic failure situations where it's like, for example, one time our cash box, like inside the ATM, started working or stopped working. And it was like the ATM's useless without it. And it took a while to actually get someone that would help us. I think it took like a couple of days. And that time was a little bit like frustrating, like just we have like a basically $8,000 piece of junk now. So that was the only time where it was like a little bit frustrating and could maybe use like, someone that would actually be able to return the calls faster than we were getting.
and on that moment, actually, now that I think about it, that specific moment, I think we were waiting for someone from, I think it was from China to get back to us because it was whoever the manufacturer was. It was someone out of China, I think. Was it out of China?
Wasn't it?
At least the person I was.
Okay.
Yeah, for the recycler, it was at least the person we talked to was directly to whoever I was dealing with was someone. He was in the States, but his supplier, he was trying to get back and forth with trying to figure out what they needed to do. Long story short, they needed to replace. It was under warranty, so they had to just replace the whole thing. So we got a brand new one shipped to us, and ended up
the recyclers
working.
are actually from Britain, although we send them to China and put them together, and they typically are the ones that warranty it. They have them in stock, but better than they do in England. So interesting.
Yeah,
So
that process was just new to us, and like Joel said, I mean, in that moment we were we didn't really know what was happening or what to do, and I think that was the frustrating point. And I think it took a little while to kind of get that figured out and realize what was going wrong. So just in that window, that was a bit frustrated
Okay.
a little bit, but
But from
you
the
know,
initial
it got
call, sorry.
just,
Go ahead.
no, you can go ahead.
No, from the initial call, you didn't get a call back for a couple of days, or it didn't get resolved, and they didn't know what to like. Maybe talk about that. That
So
sounds.
we did get a call. So it was I don't know if it was John or if it was someone else. They sent us to the specific manufacturer. They got us the number of the person, and then talking with that person, it took a little bit of time, a couple days to figure it out. And
Okay.
we were trying. We in that moment we didn't have a clarifying idea of what to do, and it was, I believe it was the weekend too, so we actually ended up trying to call like the actual, like I found the number of the like the company in Britain that you were talking about. We were trying to reach out to them, but the weekend, and we couldn't reach out. So just in that period of time, maybe a 3-day window, obviously this is our first time something going wrong, like major wrong, and like ATM's down, and we didn't know what to do. So we were I would say a little bit lost and a little bit frustrated at that point.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the good news is they don't break that often, so you don't have this issue. But when it does happen, there's ITL's got representatives here in the U.S. and stuff, but they've kind of shuffled around, so sometimes it is a bit of a struggle and to get them out and refurbished. And then typically they're under warranty, and then they don't want to deal with it, so they kind of kick, how it is. It becomes a bureaucracy. But I'm
Yeah,
glad it got
and we're glad it got figured out, because it seemed like it was one of the only times at least something like this happened. So I think whoever we were talking to was trying to figure out what was wrong too. I think when I talked to them at the end of everything, they said that some type of spring on the inside went bad or something, or got undone. I don't know what happened, but something on the inside ended up malfunctioning and could not like reload the money, or redo recycle the money properly. So it would fail.
Yeah, sounds like it was the in the back of the recycler. There's a drum, and it's called the payout module, and if it's basically like a tape, and it holds all the cash on that tape and rolls it up into like a toilet paper roll. And if that gets if that goes off just a little bit off of its track, then it'll kink. And it's just like if you've ever run cash through a money counter. Well, if you take one that's been all folded up and everything, it's got some edges that it's hard to get that dollar flat again. It takes a while. You got to sit there and crease it over the edge of a table. Same idea. That tape gets a crease in it, and it throws the whole thing off. And basically, it has to go back. It has to go back to ITL to get refurbished at that point. And if you can get your cash out of it before you have to send it back,
even better.
So.
Which we did. I actually think it went like into the air after we got our cash out. So we didn't have any cash in it
during the
that.
smart empty that something happened during the smart empty.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen that before. The roll gets, like you said, there's something wrong, and it gets folded in. It doesn't happen very often, but those, we've had those. We put millions of dollars through individual ones and never had an issue, and then it's really it's hard to figure out when you're gonna have that failure. But
Now, this isn't quite. It's not spoken about anywhere really. But one thing that I like to do is I like to keep these recyclers clean. So I'll take the head off and use some computer cleaner. Besides just doing the regular air duster to keep everything clean, because it's a computer, you want to do duster. But where the tracks, they're very much like a mouse. The old school mice. I don't know if you guys know the ones that had the balls on the bottom. And when you're using it on the mouse pad for a while, the little rollers on the inside will get gunked up with all the little fuzzies and stuff from your mouse pad. The same thing happens with the recycler,
especially in a laundromat, FYI. Because there's a laundromat that has lint in the air, and these sensors get clogged and things like that. So
so there's two common issues with laundromats. But just anywhere there's a high foot traffic location, you're getting a lot of dust. That's where dust is created by all this high foot traffic. But money's dirty, and being that it's dirty and it's going into the machine, the more money you get going through that recycler, those little rollers will get gumped up. So if you just take some cleaner and you go opposite on the opposite of the way the rollers work, you can clean that thing fresh, clean again, and it's a way to maintain them and keep them, you know, going for a long time. Another thing that you might run into, and I've run into this a lot with, like you said, with the laundry mats. The dust from the lint and stuff gets inside the printer. Now these printers will last like 30 years, no problem. But it gets inside that printer and it covers the sensor, so then it's telling the sensor there's a jam or there's paper already in there from a previous receipt and it needs to be cleared. You take a little air duster in that printer, and then all of a sudden, all these printing receipts come out. And so it's just once a month when I go out to the machines, I like to get it. It's like preventative maintenance. I like to make sure that everything's nice and clean. And some locations are worse than others. Just I guess because people put a lot. We have a location where people put a lot of smaller denominations in. And the smaller denominations tend to have a little bit more dirt on them than like the fresh hundreds do. So it gets gunked up more, you know? So I know, you know, those locations, I have a mental, I'm like, I got to go there and look this over more than I have to do the other locations.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the first problems we had actually at laundromats was the screen itself. Lint got into the screen around there, so it looked like somebody kept tapping on the screen, and we're like, what is going on? And we thought the monitor was defective. It was just lint, like was all around the inside of it, and it was on the sensor, so it couldn't see, and it just looked like somebody was tapping thousands of times over and over again. We're like, well, that's odd. And we fixed it. We didn't really realize what was going on. We didn't realize, and then the second time that happened, we're like, this is lint getting in throughout this whole thing. So we're very careful about in a laundromat making sure the screen is clean as well, because you don't realize
just take like a, you know, a little wipe or something and bend it and get it in the corners and get that lint out of there, and then you won't get all them little taps.
Yep.
That's not that only happens like what, once a year at that location.
Well, we haven't had it in a while because we clean it, but you know, I don't know I don't know how long that takes. We've had another operator, same thing. They had it in a laundromat, and it's
now we've gotten compliments from our customers on how clean our machines are, because they've used competition's machines and they're like, you know, they basically feel like they're touching a toilet, because, you know, your competitors, especially the large guys, what they're doing is they're placing these all across the country, and they have nobody to go there to make sure that it looks nice. You know, so you've got another edge on the, you know, I personally don't want to touch something that somebody, I can see chocolate finger marks on and stuff like that. You know, like it's dirty. I've seen some of these machines are really atrocious. Like they need, like, I want to clean them just for, you know, the sake of society. But keeping them clean is just, you know, it seems like it's common sense, but a lot of people don't do it. And customers do like that. They like clean machines.
This is going to be a great YouTube video. We're going to section this part out on how to clean your Bitcoin ATM, and then we're going to show all kinds of disgusting dust mites in the background. This is going to be a really good video. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we got a webinar later tonight that we're going through a lot of stuff as well.
So yeah,
one thing
it's actually going to be really helpful. I'm sorry, I was just going to say it's going to be helpful for us going into our webinar for, you know, new potential customers that are interested.
I want to circle back on something. Do you guys do any physical marketing at your locations?
Yeah, so that was one thing that we were going to ask you on to you was, well, basically we have signage. We've tried as far as like physical marketing, like print, hanging up like door hangers, stuff like that. Didn't really have much success, but we might just not have done the volume needed, because looking into it, it seems like you have to do a lot of volume before that is effective. And we probably did like a couple of thousand or something, and didn't really have any results from it. But then we just ordered, or I just ordered a like sign custom to our like business logo that is going to go into the window at one of the locations. It just says like CoinArc and then buy Bitcoin here. And so we're trying that. We have the machines wrapped, as you probably know, and then like some stuff on the machines itself, like paper literature on the machines itself, and yeah, we're kind of looking into anything else physical that we could do that maybe has worked for you guys too, though.
Well, here, can I do something for you? Can I set up a party for you? So if you were going to have a giant party and invite everybody in earshot to try one of your, well, many of your Bitcoin ATMs as you could, would you do it? You don't even have to be there. All right,
Yeah.
so here, say your addresses, plug your websites, plug everything that you can to, and then we'll schedule this for February 9th and again for the 10th and the 12th. But yeah, now, all seriousness, like, so you mentioned CoinArc. Where can I follow you? Where can I learn more about you guys? Where can people find your location?
Yeah. So just a shout out to CoinArc. So we're based in Erie, Pennsylvania. We have 4 locations. One's in Prescott Superette, one's in Gary Superette, one's in Lakeview Laundromat, and then another one in D Express Laundromat. So right now we're working on trying to get more locations. We're trying kind of spread out a little bit across Erie. We want to make sure that we kind of can get as many people as we can. And then in terms of, like Joel was talking about, just a question on your guys' marketing. If you could give us like one best thing that worked for you and locations that have worked for you. So I guess 2 questions. What's your best recommendation of locations just for us as going forward, what we're trying to look for? And then what's your best marketing advice? Because we do so the one thing we just started was YouTube Shorts. We're trying to kind of do YouTube Shorts. Probably gonna try and do the same thing for Instagram, because I followed the Hippo ATMs as well, so I see what you guys are doing on that side of things. So we're trying to emulate a couple different things like that. But yeah, those 2 questions, I guess, is your best locations, specifically what you could advise, and then your best marketing tactics.
Can I just jump in real quick on the shorts and then have you guys finish? This is the point I want to make on this. Can as many of these videos as you possibly can too. Meaning, even if you got to take an entire day and just go film a bunch of them, and if you'll break, if you go film for a couple hours, you bring in, you see what they do on Hippo's site, right? So they're wheeling the machines in, like anything, even just your hand. It doesn't even have, all it has to be is your hand. Just film as much of those as possible, and then just schedule them as drafts on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. Those are the 3 majors that'll really get your numbers up, because and stay within that 30 to 40 second range. Even if you can find something quicker, but stay around a 30-second video. Those things will pop, but can them, because you won't feel like you're caught in the oh no, it's Tuesday, I got to make my video today. Don't feel like you're doing them every day. But if you schedule them as posts, and this is the important part, where you take that time out, all you have to do that day is just wake up and hit schedule. Or just wake up and hit post. So it'll be a lot easier for you. But yeah, I'm glad to hear you guys are doing that. Take it away.
I would say for good locations, you need parking is key. Now, and you have to think about your target demographic, which like you said, is people are 48 years old, older. Do you think they want to park, parallel park, a couple blocks down street and walk across town with cash? No. They want to be able to park. It's all about convenience. So having an easy parking and it's also good for you. I mean, like if you don't like walking to the location, your customers aren't either. So that's basically one of the biggest things that I always harp when we're looking for locations. I'm like, need adequate parking. It's got to be easy, and it can't be on a corner that's dangerous. If the corner is dangerous and I don't like pulling in there because I feel like I'm going to get hit by a semi. That's probably not going to be the best location to have customers going to, because they're going to feel the same way. Physical marketing at the locations. Our top producers are the ones that we got stuff outside. So we've got tube signs that go over the car bumpers, right? It says, buy Bitcoin here, poster boards. We got physical signs that light up. I built a trailer with a 4x8 sign that says "Buy Bitcoin" here that sits right at a busy road with a big gas station. That works, and so we get a lot of feedback because we ask our customers, how do you find us? And they might have been looking for one of our competitors and they find us because of our signs. So, the guerrilla marketing, and we're actually doing the door hanging, okay, right now. And so with door hanging, it's like a 1 to 3% turnover rate. So it's all about volume. And
Yeah,
you
you gotta
might
put a
get
lot out.
you might put a couple thousand flyers out there and get some customers out of that, but you have to be able to trace how you get those customers. So like what we're
Yeah,
doing right now is we're chasing it through giving away free Bitcoin. So we're doing door hanging, and and it actually, so you've got all these different ordinances across the state. You know how it is with these townships. And so some townships, they want background checks and everything. And then other ones are like, oh, you're giving away free stuff. You can give our people free stuff, no problem. So, where you can actually do it, you got to do some research on that. But we don't have any data on that right now because we just started. And I've done it in other businesses and I had a lot of success with it. I find that with the restaurant business, you typically see within the first 2 weeks, you'll see some people coming in. They're like, "Yeah, I found your discount here. It says cut out and bring it in." And that's how I would trace it. Is they get their they get their 50% off their breakfast or whatnot for showing me the coupon, so I know that coupon's working. And then I had another business, which was it was a type of business that it was construction business, and being a construction business, nobody's going to be like, "Hey, here's $100,000. I need this done tomorrow." It's the type of stuff that they got to shop around. It takes a while. So I was anywhere from 1 month to 6 months out. People were coming back with my door hangers, and yeah, it was just like it was worth the effort. Now, so we just started those Bitcoin ATMs. Part of it's brand reinforcement. So they're seeing the name, they're knowing where these locations are. So when the thought comes in the future, they know where to go. And just
yeah,
built on it.
that was something I wanted to key on. The brand is actually Bitcoin. It's not CoinArc. It's Bitcoin. People, they're going to be confused by CoinArc. What does that mean? What is that? Is that different than Bitcoin? Is that something else? I don't. So you really want to focus on the brand of Bitcoin itself. And like Keith said, if you put it out there, maybe they hear it on the radio, maybe they're listening to something, and they go, "Oh, that place sells Bitcoin. I think I want to pull the trigger now." And then that's how you capture them. I think I'll give you two good advertising ways that we do it. The dancing guy. The store owners love them. Customers love them. The guy, it's the guy with the jumping up and down and say, "Buy Bitcoin here." People remember that that's there. That's one of the sort of things with signage is people will drive by signs all day. They don't really register them unless they're looking for it. But things like that, things that are very unique, they'll remember it. Another thing that we're doing now are these things called gobos, which are these projectors, and we put them in the store and they hit the ground and they spin around. So literally, as they're walking in the store, it's on the floor, it's projected onto the floor. Buy Bitcoin here. They see it, and so when they decide they want to buy Bitcoin, they remember that store. Hey, I know that store sells Bitcoin, so let me go there. And then they may call or figure out how to do that process. But I think those are sort of two of our big draws to people where they remember it. We also look for as much signage as possible. If we can get on one of the billboards outside, the permanent signage, we'll invest in that. It's a little expensive, but I definitely get an ROI on that by putting that signage out there and letting them see that. So
Yeah, like the gobos he just said, I just arranged for 2 locations to have them installed today, and they're a married couple. They each have their own store, and so the husband calls up the wife, and she's like, "They got these awesome signs, like it shoots down onto the sidewalk, And so when I showed up, she was like already excited, and she's like, "Oh, let me show you where this is gonna go." They love that type of the location owners, because what you're doing is you got a business relationship with them. You're drawing people to their store, and they're drawing. They like that. And the tube
as you
men
see in a lot of these, a lot of these stores, like they're just full of lottery, this and that, and how do you differentiate one? It's all just noise at some point. You don't even it doesn't register. So you want to do something a little unique that people are like, oh, I've never seen one of these before. This is how are they projecting that on the ground? That's really cool. Like, they may not even
Yeah, the one
understand.
gas station owner said we could put like 10 tubes. He's like, you can put 10 up. You can put one over there, there. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, calm down a little bit. I'm talking about one.
Yeah, they like the tube men. The dancing guy draws a lot of customers in. Forget about the Bitcoin. It just draws people's eyes to it. And one of the things you don't want to let is if you do put a sign out there and it becomes raggedy, don't just leave it out there. I see a lot of these other competitors, they leave the sign out there and it looks like I wouldn't buy anything from that company. Like the sign looks like it's like ready to, you should have thrown it away 6 months ago. So make sure the signs are in good shape. Don't put them out there and let them fail. And that's why a lot of permanent signage is good, where you can, if one of these old stations, you can put it right under the gas pump, or even on the gas pumps. And that's another good advertising. You won't be able to do that with the big franchises, but the smaller guys put an advertise right on the gas pump. You got a captive audience. Somebody's filling up their gas tank. They can read about Bitcoin while they're filling up their gas tank. And that's what you want to look for, is sort of that captive audience. And so those are an effective way to do it as well.
Well, hopefully you guys got some gems. Some good stuff. I mean, it's the simplest thing, but keep in mind, people like shiny stuff. And when something's, versus a sign, and you get this big flappy guy, that's the type of stuff that works. But yeah, man, I'm really happy to hear you guys talking about YouTube Shorts and those sort of things, because that stuff makes a difference too. It just establishes credibility with you and a presence and all those things. And the more creative you can be with them, unique, open with a really cool hook. Stop wasting your money, like goofy stuff, like whatever you can do to get people to, keep watching, for sure. But that's all. That's pretty much all. I mean, I have tons more questions we could ask you guys, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. Anything else for us?
I did have one more question for you guys personally. I don't know if Joel had anything, but the one question that came to my mind was, so right now we have 4 ATMs. I don't know, Keith, if you could touch on this, but at what point, I don't know how many you started with, and at what point did you see, because the one thing we noticed, especially during the holidays, was our volume dropped off like a cliff. So we're starting to get, like, I just have a order that does today, and I have to get I have to get his license because it was blurry when you were talking about it. So I'll have to call this customer. But is there a point in which you noticed kind of more consistency? Is it the amount of ATMs? Is it something that you did? Is there a point that you kind of, is it 5 ATMs, 10 ATMs? I don't know if you could touch on something like that. Or does it depend on specific marketing tactics? Does it depend on maybe locations the most? It doesn't matter how many ATMs you have.
It really is completely unpredictable. One week, just knockout numbers, running around, and then the next week it's dead. So like when we're actually calculating how we're doing in order to figure it out, we do it on a monthly basis. So we're like, we do this in a month, and that's how we calculate how our month was, if we were down or if we were up. You can't do it on a weekly basis because it's just too many variables in there. Now, this time of year is slow for every business. That's why Valentine's Day exists. It keeps restaurants in business. This time of year, they'd all go out of business. And same thing with flower shops. Who buys flowers in the middle of winter? It's a horrible time. It's a horrible time for flower companies. So that's where they come up with some of these marketing gimmicks to drum up some business. So it's usually slow for a lot of people right after the holidays because they spend all their money. They're waiting for their income taxes to come in, stuff like that. Yeah. We usually see from spring until late fall is like where you see the majority of business. So you should kind of plan for that too. That every winter there might be not so good. Now that can Bitcoin's a little different in the respect that when we hit the bull market, you start seeing some FOMO, and these machines are going to start cranking. And so it might be January and there's some FOMO and you're seeing the machines crank. You're like, this isn't doing what it did the 3 years before. So that's, it really is unpredictable because you've got that 4-year cycle of Bitcoin in there that kind of, changes the game a bit.
And it is very location specific. Like there are some locations that are very consistent, and they just do very good volume. But you see sort of that cycle. Certainly, December, January, there's a slowdown typically. Again, there have been years when Bitcoin's gone up, and there's all the rate, and that fear of missing out is much more powerful than anything else you would think. When the price goes lower, people want to get in on a deal. That's not it at all. It's really that fear of missing out, and yeah, the more locations you have, this sort of, you'll learn your market and you'll learn which locations are working and why. But it is very smart. It is very location specific. Like we have certain locations that have always done well, and no matter the market. And again, it's the customers, right? Because you're capturing those customers. So if you have those same people coming back, typically they'll come to the same machine, and you're just building up that customer base. And you'll know after a few months sort of how that location is going to do, and it's very location specific. We've had
Okay.
locations we thought were going to do fantastic and didn't do well, and ones that we thought okay, and they were, out of the ballpark, home runs, and we
Yeah,
still
like
haven't
we've
figured
had.
out exactly how to. We wish we knew the formula for that, but
So you wouldn't say that it's really like a direct correlation then that once you hit, 10 ATMs, your business is going to do 20% more volume per ATM. It's just pretty much the locations
no,
that
as
you
much as I'd love
have.
to see more machines, no, it's not like that. It's like it's literally you pick the right locations, and that location's going to do really well. The only reason is with 10 machines, you're much more likely to hit a home run, right? So if you have 4 locations, you have probably
That's
one
true,
location
yeah.
doing better than all the other ones. With more locations, it's just the role.
Eventually you'll find one location by accident that's like really good for
It's
some reason. Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wish I
I
had
do.
better news for you, but that's the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time. I do have like I wanted to save the questions to the end, but I do have like 2 questions that I guess I wanted to ask you if you do have some more time.
Yep.
Um, one of them was kind of going back to like you spoke earlier about like um having, a cellular box right at the ATMs for internet service. And I guess this one's kind of, I don't know. Is there any reason that for like whether it's legal or some other reason that you would do that? And I guess the reason I want to preface why I'm asking is because we spoke to someone else just in Erie that's a businessman that he's actually like one of the biggest real estate guys here as far as commercial real estate. And one of the things he mentioned was we're talking basically our goal was to get into a larger chain, expand that way, like a country fair or something like that, a chain of gas stations. He said one of the things you'd probably have to address is the internet security aspect of it. And if there is some sort of network attack, like how would you prevent that? Would that make our stuff go down? So I guess it's just like my question is
A network
around like
attack against the store, or a network attack against the machine, or a network attack against what? Because yeah, if you're relying on the store's internet, somebody pulls the plug, things like that. That's why I was saying if their point of sale system's on there, they're going to get it resolved quickly. I don't know if that answers it, but with the
yeah.
cellular, you
I
take that
guess
out.
I was just wondering if there was any instances of that where it's like, hacker attack trying to actually get customer data or something like that, or just
Well, there is
for
no customer data at the machine, so everything's centralized off of the machine. So even if they compromise the machine, there's nothing to be gained by that. But I mean, the reason we're using the cellular is not for security. Security, we've already built that into the software, so we're not that concerned about it. It's reliability. And so if we have a location where, it goes down all the time, and they're not bringing it up relatively quickly, we'll just put a cellular modem in there. The cost is relatively cheap, and you lose one customer, it already paid for the modem. So I'd say most of our machines at this point have cellular on them. We don't, unless they have a good connection and they're dependent on it. We don't like to be dependent on that.
okay, sounds good. Yeah, that makes sense. And what was the name of the company that you used? Was it just called the Wireless Box for your service?
They're local here. Keith,
Yep.
what's their name?
Yeah, they're the wirelessbox.com, I think it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they? Do they only do your area, or they do
No.
like? Okay.
Yeah, no, they do. They started off doing ATMs, and so they do ATMs and Bitcoin ATMs.
Yeah, we met them
Sounds
at the ATM conference was it in Florida or maybe it was in Vegas? I forget
That
which
was the
one.
one that we met
We,
actually both. I think we
In New
yeah,
met both.
yeah,
Orleans.
yeah, yeah.
Right now,
Vegas
I
and
know of
Florida.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they were local, and we're like, "What? You guys are here?" So, we
yeah.
went with them.
They're like right down the street from where one of our
Yeah.
machines are, and it was like,
Okay.
small world.
Yeah, I think
They've been great. Yeah,
I
they've
think they
been
had an
good.
office in King of Prussia. I'm not sure, but yeah, I remember them being very local, very good company.
okay. Yeah. I think the other question I had is just if you're willing to share, because you've obviously have more locations than we do, um, what your top three, bottom three locations look like. And if you'd be willing to share like addresses and stuff like that so that we could kind of do some demographic research on our own end and be like, how could we emulate this in our city? Like
Yeah,
and
we won't
so
publish this, but I'm happy to share that with you.
okay. And even if you want to in an email after this call or anything, but yeah, that's just one thing.
Population density is key. So, like Erie
Okay.
itself it's a metropolitan, right? So, um, if you're in the inner city, you're probably not going to do as good as right outside of the city, right? Like the suburb area versus way out in the farmlands doesn't do too well. That's one of the big things, okay, that you have to focus on is the actual population density. How many people are going to be within reach of that Bitcoin ATM to begin with. We had a location when I came into the operations end of things. We had a location that was there for over a year, didn't see a single transaction. I go out there and it's surrounded by corn. I'm like, it's farmlands. There's no, there was a small trailer park that had 5 trailers, and I'm like, I don't know why we have a machine here. Maybe by some chance somebody's driving across the country and somehow comes across it, might use it. But the chances of that happening is pretty far and few. We do it. Yeah, we can share this with you. Like Eric said. Yeah. Well, we can email you. Some of our locations that do well. It really is surprising. We recently got a
Yeah.
location back. It was what 6 months ago, maybe not even. And I always thought this location would do good. Now in other towns, that location would have been too busy of a corner. But this is a shopping district, okay, and people tend to go there from the whole area. It's a major intersection that they go to. It's pretty convenient for them, and there's plenty of parking and everything. And that location just took off right away. Another location we had over a year, and it was like it's time to pull it, and it just out of nowhere it just starts producing. So
Yeah,
it's
we were going to pull TKs. Now it's one of our best performing machines. It hadn't done an order for a year, and honestly, we didn't really do that much. It just all of a sudden started taking off, and we get a lot of business. The one
You
location
hadn't
that we
done
did,
an order for a whole year and you kept the location. Like
it was, I mean,
That was going to be my question. Is I was going to follow up because I was going to ask how long do you guys keep an ATM before you
that
would try and
was
move
when
it?
we were pretty disorganized on the operations side. That was maybe
okay.
5 years.
I was like,
Yeah,
damn.
no, we intended to pull it, and we just had a lot of machines, so we're like, let's just keep deploying, and we'll get back to it.
Well, I'm
We
glad
just
it worked
did.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we were literally ready to pull it, and then we got a big order. I was like, okay, let's see. And she goes, she's gonna come back. All right, let's just keep it there, fine. And then boom, another person, and I don't know what happened. It was odd, but I'll tell you one of the best ones.
every time we're gonna pull a machine for some reason it like attract. So I like to say I want to
It's like
pull
they
that
know.
machine, and then all of a sudden it starts generating revenue.
Yeah.
Maybe
Just like when
I'm
we
gonna
go
have
pick
to
up
start
cash,
saying
it's
we're
like,
gonna pull all of ours.
or it's like when you go take the cash out of the machine, it's literally 10 minutes later, you go get some large orders at the machine. We're like, what the hell? Like, what is that about? That is, we laugh about it, but it's a thing. We had a location that we put it in. We weren't too sure about it, but we started noticing a lot of CDL truckers were using this machine. And what we didn't realize, like they were coming there for the gas. It was the cheapest gas. They all knew it. And it was a big truck stop nearby. And that turned out to be one of our top locations. And why? Because the truckers stopped in there, they see it, they listen to the radio on the road. They're like, yeah, I know how to buy Bitcoin. I saw that down at that place. Next time I'm in there, I'm going to go buy Bitcoin. And that's exactly what happens because we kept seeing CDL licenses. Like, what is going on with all these truckers using our machine? And we started talking to them and they're like, nothing. I always buy gas here. I like the store, and I saw you had Bitcoin, and I heard it on Ramsey or I don't know, one of these shows about it, and I got interested in it and figured I can go buy it there, and that's it. And then they come every week, and those are your best customers. Those guys that literally take a little bit of their paycheck every week and put it in your machine. You want to collect them. So I think that's. There's no way to really predict that though. That's so I give you the information, but it's
That was
not going to
a
help you.
interesting insight of like, that's crazy. I would never. One
But
year
that
just like
location,
nothing.
it's very different. Like older people are comfortable in there because it's safe, right? So they're comfortable going into the gun shop. But we put it into another gun shop where we got nothing, and so it's really it's very location based, and there's no secret formula to it. Wish there was, believe me, it'd be easier. And that's why just having more machines out there and pull, we give them about 4 months and then we pull them if they're not doing well. But the ones that do well, we know pretty quickly, like this is going to be a good location. It takes off within a month or two, and we keep them.
Yeah, generally 4 to 6 months is a good point of marketing. Like you're marketing and getting getting people attracted there, and then you start to get the idea whether you want to keep the location or not. And it all depends on what your overhead is. If you're paying premium for that location, how long are you going to drag it out to? But then let's say you put your 6 months in there, and then somebody else comes in and they take it over, and then all it needed was 7 months. Like so. That's why we tend to wait a little bit to see, because we can carry the overhead. We usually offer a lower rent for the first 6 months, and we explain to the landlord, look, we got to build up this location. This is a teamwork event. We got to drive customers here. Once we start seeing the customers, we can pay a little bit more, and that works out because it incentivizes us, because we want that location to work out, but we're also not eating all this extra overhead. Once we've got this location locked down and it's a good location, we put in the work for the marketing, and we got customers coming in there, then we're incentivized to keep it now. Like we want to keep it. So, we will pay more for it. And as long as, it really is, I met with a bunch of gas station owners the other day, and I'm reviewing their locations. So I'm doing Google reviews on their locations, not the Bitcoin ATMs. I'm doing, because give and take, right? Like I want them to look at that Bitcoin ATM as an asset to their business, as it's there for a reason. So I'm reviewing, their coffee, their gasoline prices, everything, and that way, it helps boost their business, because there is a little bit of a trouble in the economy right now. They're feeling it. Everybody's feeling it. So if us business owners that we're doing business with work together, we can help them out. They can help us out.
Yeah, that's another thing you'll find is that if you have a good relationship with the store owners, nobody's going to pilfer your location, versus some of these other competitors that you'll find, they don't pay on time, they have problems, the machine's down. You can pilfer those locations and do better and have a better relationship with the store owner. That goes a long way. I think if that is one common denominator in our best performers, it's the store owner takes an active interest in our machine. Yep. For sure. We don't have any.
They enjoy that we're local. They like the fact that they got a local guy that actually goes in, sits down, and talks to them. Hey, how's it going? How was your vacation? Like,
or somebody has a problem and can't figure out the machine, and they go to the store owner and he doesn't have time. He'll just call us up and say, "Here, talk to them. They'll help you." And if you don't have that kind of relationship, then he'll just say, "I don't, it's not mine, whatever," and doesn't care. That's not what you want. You want them to be able to do that, because there are a lot of people, they're just intimidated to buy their first Bitcoin, and they just need that little extra help to get it done, as David probably sees when he talks to people. But the first stop is going to be the store owner, and if the store owner's like, I don't know anything about it, I don't, leave me alone, I'm busy. That's not going to be the experience you want them to have. So it is important to engage with the owners or the employees. And the employees are easy. Give them Bitcoin, set them up with a wallet, show them how to use the machine, take your time with them, and they will help customers because now they feel smart, right? Now they're like, oh, I'll show you how to use it. It's super simple. And they take them through the process. That's what you want. And that's the one common denominator in all our top performing locations is the store owners take an active interest.
Okay.
There was I guess one other thing that I just thought of that came up. It's been not as fun for us, but just any advice you have around scam prevention. We've had a lot of instances, unfortunately, where people are losing like tens of thousands of dollars to romance scams and stuff like that.
Romance
So
scams are tough. It's really that they're a tough one. You can't convince somebody that the other person doesn't exist. Sometimes we just tell them don't use our machine anymore.
Yeah.
I've had to I've had to tell some people, I'm like, because in the beginning they're like, well, we had one instance for a lady that was like, well, this was a difference than a romance scam, but specifically a romance scam. This guy, I mean, he was absolutely convinced of someone from Africa that he was in love with, and I'm like, he explained all the whole situation. I'm like, dude, this is 100% a scam. Like, he's like, oh, can I just send a little bit more? I'm like, I'm sorry, you have to use another company. Like, we can't do this anymore. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, the romance stuff is really tough. The scam, the typical scams. If you talk to somebody, we kind of give them the whole spiel about, what is a scam and is that your wallet? That's a clear indicator when they're using somebody else's wallet. The other thing you can do is when they hold up their phone, you can sometimes see a text message of somebody directing them. That's going to give you a clear indicator, like, okay, I need to talk to this person. They're probably being scammed. As you're doing this for a while, it gets easier to identify them. We're going to have a piece of software here shortly we'll be releasing to add into the mix that'll using AI to identify patterns of scams, since we have a lot of data now to identify that stuff, so it'll help you a little more. But it's tough. People lie to you, so it's really hard to help somebody that's going to lie to you about things.
That's happened too, yeah.
Our worst scam was a lady that specifically 4 times lied to me, saying that she was buying it for herself. And turns out later she called us crying that she lost $100,000 to someone. And it was like, she even told me, she's like, you were trying to help me. I realized that. And then now I realize I just fell for this. I'm like, oh my goodness, that sort of thing. So.
Have you noticed, I doubt that it will work because if us telling them isn't working, then, but I just like putting stuff on the machine, like written, just like be aware.
Well, you'll see the Secret Service does it for you. Don't they? They have a poster that they'll put on your machines.
Yeah. I just had an operator. One of my operators told me they just got one of those today, and they went in and they told the store owner that the store owner is required to keep this on their machine.
I just saw one on a gift card kiosk at the supermarket. I've never seen that one. Like, I know it's it, but yeah, I don't know if it's a federal requirement now, but yeah, I mean, it's.
No, I don't think it's a requirement. I think they're just doing it.
I don't mind them, honestly. They're actually not a bad sign because people take notice. They're like, whoa, what is that? Sure. And then they read it. So,
Yeah.
So your question, does it help? Your question, does it help? I mean, Keith, you're in operations way more than I am. I mean, do you notice any?
I don't know.
What's that?
Talking to them is really the secret sauce. You got to talk to people you think. Especially if you see they're older, you definitely have to have a conversation with them. They're the target, and unfortunately, they're also our customers. So,
well, you know what else too? Older people that are lonely, and it's a dangerous combination when you're lonely and you just have all this money and they don't really care, and that's why they'll lie to you. So yeah, I mean, any type of it's like that one,
if they're really desperate
right.
If they're really desperate to get them the Bitcoin, that's usually a red flag right there. Like they're like, I need to get it now.
I need it now.
Yeah.
Or if you get a phone call from somebody else, right? So a lot of times we'll get a call from Nigeria saying, "Hey, I use and here's a little trick is, oh, which machine did you use?" And they have no idea. right? They don't know what store were you in? They don't know. They just have the receipt number, and that's an indicator you're not talking to the same person as who came to the machine. But yeah, that delay, they want it now because they know the longer it takes, the more eyes that go on it, the more likely that scam is going to get found out. So the scammer is really pushing on. A lot of time, the scammer's still on the phone with them as they're using the machine. So if you see somebody on their phone with another, that's an indicator as well.
Now, yeah, can I talk about one of the scams that we had?
Go ahead. Which one?
Right.
The IRS
So
one?
I get a phone call from one of our gas station owners, and he's in a pure panic. And he's like, dude, he's like, stop your Bitcoin transaction now. Stop it, stop it. So what they did was they called the location, talked to the employee, and said that they were the business partner and that there's a shipment coming today. You have to lock the front door and you got to put money into the payment kiosk there to this QR code, and you got to take it out of the safe and put all that money in there as soon as possible, because if not, we're not getting the delivery. And so the employee believed it. And the employee locked the door, went and started putting money in the machine, sending it to the scammer. And she was only, I think it was $190 was how much actually got sent. But she put a couple $1,000s in there. It was about 5,000 before the owner figured out something was going on. And the reason he figured out was he got one of his buddies said, why is your 24-hour store closed? The front door's locked. And so he got this phone call. He's like, well, it shouldn't be locked. So he went running there and called her red hand and put money in the machine. And so now, if we were a bigger Bitcoin ATM company where you got sent the voicemail or something, all that money could have been lost. But, he was able to contact me right away. We were able to stop everything. And so the employee was on the hook for $190 because it was her, she fell for the scam. And, but it's not always the same case. And so some of these scams can get really complex.
Yeah, we had one where Wawa's had same thing, not at our store. It was a Wawa's down the street. They called that store as a manager and said, hey, you need to take this money over to this location, put it in there. And she did it. And she put we stopped the transaction, we caught it. Then we got called by, I think it was the Secret Service or the FBI or one of them, and asking us. I was like, this thing's on hold. We knew this was a scam. She had no, the story she told us was completely, off base. So it's interesting. Your store themselves can actually be the victim of a scam as well.
I'm surprised at how some people can just think that this is a good idea. I was speaking at Country Fair. Actually, we got in contact with a manager at one of the locations we got from another person. He's like, all right, I talked to this manager. Go ahead and give him a call. And it was the worst timing in the world because the day before, one of the employees had the exact same scam as you guys are talking about. And they were completely hostile to us and pretty much just absolutely were even yelling at us through the phone. And I was like, what is going on? So that was like, oh my goodness. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, how, if you're an employee sitting there, how are you taking money out of the register and thinking it's a good idea to put it into an ATM or a kiosk? Yeah. But it is what it is.
Those guys are convincing. They understand that the levers and the pressure and the way to talk to somebody to get them to do things for them. So it works.
They would do something productive with their lives.
Yeah, well, we're not going to be able to fix that, but what you can try to fix is identifying it when it comes to your machine and stopping it. We've done a good job of that, I would say. So yeah.
Okay. Absolutely.
Have you noticed that, pretty much not to be overly focused on the business instead of the victim, but have you noticed that whenever that happens, the customer never would come back as a customer, or has that ever, if someone were to become victim of any type of Bitcoin scam?
Actually, some of them are our best customers. So they originally got scammed. We saved them from being scammed. And then they're like, you know what? I don't know anything about Bitcoin, but I was going to lose $20,000. You guys saved me. Thank you. I'm just going to leave it in Bitcoin. And then 6 months later, Bitcoin went up. They came back and they're like, okay, wow, I made a ton of money. Thank you. Some of them have become customers and use the machine. So, when they lose money, no, you're probably not going to get them as a customer. But when you save them from being scammed, absolutely you can turn them into a customer. You know, but you have to be very careful with them because you want to make sure that they're just not telling you, perpetuating a lie and things like that. So we're a little more careful with customers like that. But certainly, we've saved them. You know, that in their eyes, that money was lost, but they got scammed. They bought this hook, line, and sinker, and we were the ones that stopped it. So you know, we're a hero in that case. And so a lot of times they will continue. They research it. Right now they're like, what is this Bitcoin? Why, you know, and so they become customers. Definitely have that.
Maybe that's the next form of marketing, just like having more people
Start scamming people.
No, don't do that. I don't know. You know, you don't want to talk about it too much. You kind of have to. So yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Guys,
We or go ahead.
I was just gonna say this has been really helpful. Any other questions? I'm not that we can do this all the time, but be happy to do this again. We're gonna be at the ATM conference next week in Vegas. So if we find any cool gems, we'll let you know. Other than that, guys, I really appreciate all your time. We got to wrap up soon. We got another webinar that we're getting pulled over to. So any other last minute questions? You guys can always reach out to us, obviously, directly. But this has been really helpful, man. I appreciate the both of you because this is going to be good for, you know, just from our ChainBytes selfish standpoint to be
able to freeze up like Mike.
Oh. But yeah, thank you guys for hopping on and answering some questions. And
no, we appreciate it, and we appreciate the feedback. And you know, we want to see you guys succeed. Obviously, that's how we make our money, is expanding your fleet and making more money with you guys. So, you know, and we want to see operators like you that are doing the right thing, stopping the scams, doing compliance, doing good customer service, representing Bitcoin and the company, you know, at large. So good job.
Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate it, and we'd be happy, I think, to come on again sometime if you wanted to do this again.
Yeah, I think we're going to try to formalize doing stuff like this in the future. This was the first time we've done this with an operator, besides the podcast that we did. But I think we need to do more of this because we learn a lot, and certainly I think you guys can, you know, hear some.
Oh yeah, just the nuggets that you shared, even in like cleaning the machines and stuff like that, will probably save us tons of money and future costs and stuff, and marketing that's worked for you guys, it'll help us. So, and then you guys learn from us on problems that we have so that you can improve the actual hardware and software side as well. So I think everyone kind of benefits. And also, yeah, just a reminder, if you could, we'd love those top three, bottom three, so we could see those locations.
The bottom threes are probably zeros, but I don't know if we have
We'll just the number.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What I can tell you is,
I know you're looking for demographics.
top 10 in the past year, 5 out of the top 10 had physical marketing, like real signs, professionally made signs. And that goes to, and the year before, the top producers were
top
3
5 physical signs outside, like big signs, like billboard type signs right out there. That
in front of the location.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the one is literally, you know, they have the Sunoco, they have the price of the fuel, and then under it, buy Bitcoin here, and that's, yeah, I think that sign cost us a couple of $1,000s, but it's been worth it. And I think every time we put a sign in like that, it's been worth it.
Permanent fixture.
If we can't always do it at every location. First of all, some of these big franchises won't allow them to do that kind of stuff. But if it's allowed, for sure, take advantage of it. Spend money, it's worth it.
Sure.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, everybody.
Definitely.
Thanks, everybody.
It was
Nice
good meeting you all.
Yeah.
Same.
See you soon.